Now, there is a common thread in many of the top stories this week, from the role played by Team Anna in Hisar bypolls to the Advani Rath Yatra to a frank admission by a UPA minister, Salman Khurshid, that the government cannot compete with the use of social media by civil society activists. Is political contact with masses changing, and are our politicians ready for the challenge? Joining us, Congress MP who knows all about winning elections, Dipinder Hooda, brand expert Santosh Desai, and Team Anna member Gaurav Bakshi. Thank you all for joining us on this segment that we call Hashtag. Dipinder, first you have a Facebook account, you also have a Twitter account. But how much of your politics do you conduct through these social media sites?
Sunetra, I think the new age media are just another medium to reach out to a segment of your constituents. And like you rightly said, especially the younger generation, because younger generation is much more technologically savvy. And that's also the segment that's usually not very engaged with the political discourse. So I think the new age media is very important from that perspective. Overall, it is just another medium. So there are many segments in the total population of our country. And to reach out to different segments, you necessarily have to use different mediums. And this is this is emerging as a very important new medium.
But Dipinder, I follow you on Facebook, and I see what you put up, and it's not that you're as active as a lot of other people. For instance, we see the social media activists, they put up things a lot of times. They put up lots of videos, they're tweeting a lot, and a whole lot of them. It's not just one member who does it, whereas we don't see that from the government. When Salman Khurshid admitted this week about government having a major handicap in that, do you agree with him?
See, I think, the way you use the social media is going to be dependent on a person to person. There are some politicians that I know who are as technologically savvy, but they just do not like the concept of a Twitter and the fact that they just don't want to communicate with communicate everything, or as frequently as you were mentioning. So I think that it also brings out the personality of a individual. But I think there's another bigger context here. There's a worldwide we see a movement for transparency. The technology and the people who are empowered with this technology are driving that movement. There's a movement for transparency in everything, how we conduct our business, how we conduct the legislation, the whole. You talked about the the Lokpal bill and the discourse that we are seeing. Yeah. So the process of legislation itself is being viewed with new lenses, and people empowered. Yeah. With the technology. So I think we will see much more of that. But yes, some people will communicate less, some people will communicate in different means, and they will use the technological platform in the way that is relevant to their kind of politics.
Okay, Gaurav, Dipinder's being, he's quite safe. He's saying the right thing, that some people are using it a lot more. We see people like Shashi Tharoor use it a lot more than perhaps someone like Dipinder or some of the other MPs. I mean, Dipinder's still on social media. There are lots of other young MPs who you would expect to be using social media, but they're not using. Did Team Anna, when you planned out your strategy earlier this year, before it became a huge phenomenon, did you all expect the fact, and plan around the fact that this would be the huge advantage that you would have over the government?
It wasn't necessarily a planned strategy to use social media, but there was young blood in the movement. The youth was standing by, and the ideas of some of these young volunteers who came forward was readily accepted, which is the missing part in organizations or in a structure like a government structure. So that flexibility, that openness to new ideas was there, while the core, the more prominent members of the movement were not necessarily on social media or on Twitter. Other than Kiran Bedi, I believe none of the others had accounts. Even today don't have accounts. Yeah. Other than Anna, who recently started actively blogging, yeah, and now has a Facebook page, etc. But some of us back then realized the need for this, realized this was one of the most...
Whose idea was it to keep uploading videos of him from jail and otherwise messages as well, feeling the need that that would actually fuel and get everyone across the country together and not just people who watch news?
No, I think the ideas were there amongst, again, primarily coming from the youth, amongst the meetings that we had. In that specific example of the jail, it was actually Kiran Bedi's idea to bring that out and allow the world to see and really ignite that support.
Yeah.
So it was a mix there, and I would credit her particularly for having used this medium, and credit the others for allowing the youth in the movement to come forward to utilize it in a big way, which made a dramatic difference.
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone, fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.